Beloved chosen one. Stop scrolling. This is not coincidence. This is divine intervention. The book has been opened, and heaven is calling your name. Not tomorrow, not someday. Right now, you have reached the moment that was written into eternity before your birth. Heaven paused everything around you, silenced the noise of the world, and summoned your spirit to attention. Why? Because your assignment begins now. You've felt it, haven't you? That quiet rumble in your soul. The sense that you were made for more than the cycle you've been living in. That whisper you couldn't silence, even when the world grew loud. The unrest wasn't confusion, it was confirmation. God has been speaking, but now the volume is rising. He's no longer hinting, he's declaring, you have been chosen. You were never meant to blend in. You were never meant to hide in the shadows. You are a light, and today that light is being activated. Heaven didn't choose you because of perfection. It chose you because of position, because of the posture of your heart, the perseverance through pain, the purity you fought to preserve even in silent battles. You've been through things that should have broken you, but look at you still standing, not by might, not by power, but because grace held you together in the dark. And now, grace is about to push you into the light. There is a page with your name on it in the divine archive of heaven. It's not blank. It's filled with blueprints, strategies, miracles, moments, assignments. What's been hidden is now being activated. You are walking into the plans God has written for you before time began. Plans no demon can cancel. Plans no human can hijack. Plans that waited for your obedience to fully unlock. Look around. The signs are everywhere. Closed doors that didn't make sense. Friendships that faded. Jobs that dried up. Delays that felt like denial. But what you saw as detours were actually divine reroutes. You didn't miss it. You were being preserved. The wilderness was not a punishment, it was a preparation. God had to strip the noise so you could finally hear the call. This is not a motivational speech. This is a spiritual wake-up call. Something in the spirit realm has shifted. The air around you is different because heaven has spoken. This is the moment where your casual walk ends and your divine assignment begins. You don't need to understand everything. You just need to obey. Obedience opens doors intellect can't even find. You've seen what happens when you live like everyone else: frustration, restlessness, spiritual fatigue. But now, it's time to rise into the reality that you are not everyone else. You've been carrying oil. You've been walking with a fire that hell fears. That's why the warfare in your life didn't make sense. It wasn't about where you were, it was about where you're going. And now, the book has been opened. You are being ushered into destiny. Stop doubting your readiness. God does not call the qualified. He qualifies the called. If He opened the scroll, it's because you are read even. If your feelings haven't caught up, heaven isn't waiting on your emotions. It's waiting on your yes. When you say yes, you align with an ancient script that existed before your trauma, before your failure, before your fear, and that script is still active. This is the hour of divine activation. You're not just receiving a word, you're becoming the word, a living, walking, undeniable miracle. Every scar you carry is a testimony that the fire didn't consume you. It forged you. You've been assigned to this generation, this timeline, this moment. Heaven trusted you with the burden because it knew you wouldn't break. Even when you bent under pressure, your spirit never gave in. And that's why the book has been opened now. Isaiah chapter 43. Verse 2 says, "When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. Chosen one." That's not poetry. That's prophecy over your life. The fire refined you. The fire revealed you. The fire proved to heaven and hell that you are chosen. So now, take your place. This is not the time to shrink back. Not the time to question. Not the time to procrastinate. This is your moment. Heaven has blown the trumpet, and your spirit is responding. You are being awakened for such a time as this. The next time you doubt your worth, remember this. Hell wouldn't fight you this hard if you weren't a threat. You terrify darkness just by waking up in the morning. Your existence is warfare. Your obedience is a weapon. Your calling is a collision point between heaven's plan and the enemy's agenda. And guess who wins? The one who says yes. Chosen one. If something inside of you is trembling, don't ignore it. That's your spirit recognizing truth. That's your assignment calling. Comment 777 below if you feel it. If this word stirred something deep in your bones, like and share it with someone who's also awakening. And subscribe. Because this is only the first page. The rest of the scroll is still unfolding. You were never meant to blend in. That tug in your spirit, that aching feeling of difference, it wasn't rejection. It was revelation. Heaven marked you with distinction before you were even formed in the womb. While others were being crafted for comfort, you were being forged for calling. This world told you to fit in, but heaven's fingerprint on your life made that impossible. You are not like the rest. You never were. From your earliest days, you noticed it. You felt out of place, like you were walking to a rhythm no one else could hear. You weren't broken. You were being set apart. The crowd never called to you because your destiny was never designed to walk in step with the ordinary. And even when you tried to blend, something inside you resisted. You couldn't stay where everyone else stayed. You couldn't laugh at what they laughed at, entertain what they embraced, or rest where they were content to sleep. That wasn't stubbornness, it was sacredness. God placed something within you that the world could not decode. You didn't fit in because your spirit was tuned to heaven's frequency, while others were intoxicated with the culture. You were quietly yearning for clarity. You carried conviction when no one else did. You heard the whisper when no one else was listening. You saw danger where others saw entertainment. That wasn't paranoia, was discernment. And now, God is calling that part of you to attention. Your uniqueness was not a curse, it was a confirmation. You were never designed for the system of this world. That's why compromise made you sick. That's why surface-level living never satisfied. You tried to dim your light. But even then, people could still sense it. They didn't understand you, but they noticed you. They felt the weight of glory on you, even when you didn't feel it yourself. There's a fire in you that cannot be explained, only discerned. You disrupt atmospheres just by being present. Your presence stirs conviction. Your silence releases tension. People either gravitate to you or flee from you. And both are evidence that you are marked. What the enemy tried to use to isolate you, God is now using to identify you. Heaven didn't call you to be popular. It called you to be powerful. You are the one God placed in the middle of your family line to break what everyone else accepted. You are the one in your circle who sees what others ignore. You carry vision that doesn't come from education, it comes from revelation. Your thoughts don't come from human wisdom, they are whispered from the throne room. You felt crazy at times, wondering if you're too intense, too deep, too sensitive. But the truth is, you're just tuned in. What others call extra, God calls equipped. What others called too much, Heaven calls necessary. You were made with layers others can't see yet, and your depth is divine. Don't apologize for the weight you carry. It's not arrogance to walk in your identity. You're not doing the most. You're simply walking in the magnitude of your mantle. This is the time to embrace your difference. Not hide it. Not water it down. Not mold it to match someone else's model. God doesn't need you to be a copy. He needs you to be the original He designed. There are realms of influence waiting for your authenticity. There are people connected to your obedience. And there are assignments that only respond to your voice, your walk, your specific anointing. Your uniqueness is a weapon, a divine edge that cuts through the noise and reaches the ones who have ears to hear. The world may try to normalize your gift, but heaven never will. You are not normal. You are supernatural. You've been sent as a solution to a spiritual problem. Your presence is strategic. Your very existence disrupts darkness and shifts atmospheres. That's why warfare follows you. It's not because you're weak. It's because you're different. The pain you experienced was not proof of abandonment. It was proof of refinement. You weren't just going through hardship. You were going through holy preparation. God was stripping away the layers that the world tried to put on you, revealing what He always intended to shine through you. Every lonely night, every misunderstood season, every moment of silence, it all had purpose. Heaven was fashioning a vessel that could carry glory without cracking under pressure. You carry a sensitivity that others mocked, but that sensitivity was actually spiritual sight. You noticed what others ignored. You grieved over things others laughed about. That wasn't weakness, it was intercession. God gave you a heart that feels deeply so you could carry burdens others don't have the strength to touch. Don't apologize for your depth. Your tears have been your training. Paul reminds us in Ephesians chapter 2, verse 6, God raised us up with Christ and seated us with Him in the heavenly realms. You are seated differently, positioned differently, assigned differently. And that's why your life can never look like theirs. You've been raised above the noise, elevated above the pattern. Your difference is not your flaw, it's your fingerprint. And God is now requiring you to walk in that distinction with boldness. There is a remnant, rising others like you, who have also been misunderstood, hidden, and set apart. And now the trumpet is sounding to all the marked ones. Stand in your difference. Stop explaining it. Stop apologizing for it. Let the light do the talking. Chosen one. You felt the heat long before the fire was visible. From your earliest days, hell knew who you were becoming. The war didn't begin when you got serious about God. It began the moment you were born. There was something about your cry that made darkness tremble. Something about your presence that unsettled the plans of the enemy. You were targeted early because your light was ancient. Hell doesn't waste resources on the irrelevant. You've walked through storms others didn't see, fought battles that had no audience. The pain you carried was private, but the spiritual attack was intentional. That torment, designed to silence your voice. That rejection, crafted to crush your confidence. But none of it succeeded. Because deep down, There was always something unkillable inside you, and that something was not stubbornness. It was purpose. It was divine fire. It was your calling, refusing to die. There were moments you wanted to quit. Moments you begged God for relief. Nights you cried yourself to sleep, asking why the pain wouldn't stop. But even then, the fact that you kept waking up, kept breathing, kept moving, that was proof that God's hand never lifted. You didn't survive by accident. You survived by design. Hell launched weapons that should have taken you out. But you are still here, not limping, not barely. You are here with oil in your hands and fire in your belly. That heaviness you felt was never just emotional. It was spiritual. You were carrying the weight of what you hadn't even stepped into yet. Warfare doesn't wait until you're ready. It shows up when your potential starts to leak into the atmosphere, and your potential has been leaking since childhood. That's why some people couldn't stand you. That's why rooms grew tense when you entered. You reminded darkness that its time was limited, and still, you rose. Even misunderstood, even misquoted, even misdiagnosed. You kept showing up. You kept loving people who didn't love you back. You kept giving while your hands were bleeding. That wasn't weakness. That was royalty, learning how to rule through pain. You were becoming strong in silence, being trained in shadows. But the throne was always in your future. It was declared in Luke chapter 10, verse 19. I have given you authority to trample on snakes and scorpions. The authority isn't coming. It's already inside you. The enemy's hope was that you'd never discover it, that you'd stay wounded long enough to disqualify yourself. But here you are, standing in revelation, saying clearly, hearing the sound of destiny knocking on your spirit's door. This isn't hype. This is heaven. This is the moment where realization becomes revolution. You're no longer asking why it happened. You're understanding what it made you. Chosen one. Stop questioning your worth. The fact that hell targeted you is your confirmation. You were dangerous in diapers, strategic in silence, terrifying even when timid. The enemy saw your crown before you did. That's why life tried to convince you you were nothing. Because if you ever realized who you were, darkness knew it would have no chance. You're not just chosen, you're marked. There's a difference. Being chosen is divine. Being marked is visible. And you, chosen one, are both. Heaven chose you, and hell saw it. That's why the enemy didn't need a reason. Your existence was the reason. And now, that same existence will be the weapon. You are the answer to a spiritual problem in your bloodline. You are the breaker of cycles, the voice in the wilderness, the warrior with scars that testify louder than sermons. You've been asking God why the warfare has been so severe. Here's the answer. It's because of the weight of what you carry. Oil comes at a cost, and the oil you carry required crushing. But don't despise the crushing. Celebrate it, because what tried to destroy you actually developed you. Every loss, every betrayal, every heartbreak, it didn't diminish you. It defined you. Now, you walk with a limp that proves you wrestled with God and survived. You're not broken. You're branded, marked by every fire you walked through, crowned in every valley you wept through, empowered by every no that trained your patience. Your resilience is not natural. It's prophetic. You were built for this, engineered in glory, forged in the secret place. And no devil in hell can unwrite what God has written. So, The next time you feel the heat rising, don't run from it. Recognize it. The fire is not your enemy, it's your final preparation. You are stepping into the phase where what once fought you will now fear you. You are no longer reacting to hell. You are now releasing heaven. When you speak, realms shift. When you walk, atmospheres submit. When you pray, walls fall. The enemy hoped you'd stay bitter, stay broken, stay confused. But he underestimated your God. He underestimated your persistence. And most of all, he underestimated your identity. Because now that you know who you are, there's no going back. The battle was proof. And now, you are proof to the world that chosen ones don't break, they birth breakthrough. Comment: I survived hell, not just as a declaration, but as a prophetic act that seals your survival story in the spiritual realm and announces to darkness that you are still standing. There was a season when heaven hid you. It wasn't punishment, it was preservation. While others were promoted publicly, you were being trained privately. While some raced ahead, your path felt slow, even stagnant. But you weren't being ignored. You were being incubated. God placed you in divine obscurity, because visibility too early would have ruined what he was forming in you. Chosen one, listen carefully. Hiddenness is not the absence of purpose, it is the refinement of it. It's where oil is crushed, character is built, and discernment is sharpened. The wilderness was not a waste. It was sacred ground. While the world was loud, God was whispering. While others were being seen, you were being shown. Shown what real authority feels like in the secret place. Shown how to pray until the atmosphere bends. Shown how to hear the voice of the shepherd above the clamor of opinion. You were not delayed. You were being developed. The silence around you wasn't God's distance, it was his intensity. He was watching closely as you navigated seasons with no applause, no affirmation, no spotlight. That kind of silence either breaks a person or forges a weapon, and you chosen one were forged. There were days you felt forgotten, times you questioned your worth. You saw others celebrated, while you served in shadows. They had platforms, you had pain. They had recognition, you had revelation. But here's what you didn't see. While they were collecting followers, you were collecting fire. And when the time comes, fire will always outlast fame. God trusted you with silence because he knew you wouldn't abandon the process. He knew you would still pray. Even when no one listened, still obey. Even when no one noticed, still worship. Even when no one understood. That's the kind of faith that moves heaven. That's the kind of obedience that releases angels. That's what you were learning in the hidden years. Moses spent 40 years in the desert before the bush burned. David was tending sheep before he was anointed king. Even Jesus lived 30 hidden years before stepping into public ministry. You're not late. You're aligned. The quiet years are never wasted. They are where giants are made, where mantles are received, where intimacy with God becomes more than theory, it becomes breath. In the hidden place, heaven taught you to survive off whispers, to recognize when God's silence was still presence. You learned how to walk by faith when sight offered no reassurance. That's why now when the noise increases, you can still find the stillness. You're no longer moved by crowds. You're moved by the cloud. You know the difference between emotion and anointing. You know when to speak and when to stay silent. That's wisdom birthed in solitude. It was in those hidden seasons that God gave you strategies, warnings, visions, words, dreams. Some of them made no sense at the time, but now they're coming into focus. The same God who gave you instructions in obscurity is about to validate them in public. He's not just opening doors, he's revealing that he was the door all along. You may have felt buried, but the truth is, you were planted. And what's planted in secret will rise with strength in season. The roots run deep now. The identity is secure. The intimacy is unshakable. So when your moment comes, and it is coming, you won't flinch under pressure. You've already bled in silence. So now, you'll roar in clarity. There were moments in that quiet place where you almost gave up. Moments when your prayers felt like echoes. But God heard everyone. He bottled your tears. He recorded your obedience. Every time you stayed when it would have been easier to walk away. Heaven took note. You passed tests no one else saw. That's why the weight of glory on your life will surprise people who only saw your stillness, not your sacrifice. You see, the wilderness wasn't the end. It was the beginning. The voice crying in the wilderness always precedes the arrival of power. You are not just stepping out, you are being sent out, commissioned, authorized, released. And when God brings you forth, He doesn't whisper it, He announces it. And what He reveals cannot be hidden again. Paul reminds us in Galatians chapter 1, verse 15, "But when God, who set me apart from my mother's womb and called me by His grace, was pleased, heaven has reached the moment of pleasure over your life. The delay is ending. The season of hiding is closing. What you built in private, you will now walk out in public, and you will not walk in timid. You will walk in trusted, tried, tempered, and utterly dependent on the God who walked every step of obscurity with you. So don't despise the hidden years. They were holy. Don't resent the quiet seasons. They were sacred. You didn't miss it. You mastered it. And now, chosen one, you are ready. Chosen one. Let's not pretend this is easy. The mantle you carry isn't light, it's heavy with destiny. The call on your life costs something. And if no one has told you that, let me tell you now, being chosen comes with weight. It is not glamorous. It is not always applauded. It is warfare, sacrifice, and surrender. You carry a responsibility that most people will never understand, but you carry it anyway. Because your obedience is not driven by applause, it's anchored in purpose. Sometimes you feel the pressure pressing on your chest. And it's not anxiety, it's assignment. It's the weight of knowing that what you do matters beyond what you see, that your yes today echoes into generations, and that your silence has consequences in realms unseen. That's not your imagination. That's spiritual reality. You were never meant to live lightly. You were called to walk heavily in glory, in wisdom, in fire. Chosen one. The mantle you carry comes with isolation. It comes with deep spiritual responsibility. You're not just living for yourself anymore. When you move, generations shift. When you pray, chains break. When you rise, principalities tremble. You are a gatekeeper in the spirit, and every gatekeeper must know how to guard the gate, even when no one else sees it. The pressure you feel is because God trusts you not to bend, trusts you not to sell your soul for attention. trusts you not to dilute your calling for comfort. Others get to take spiritual breaks, but you don't, because your very existence is divine resistance. Your posture is warfare. You are an altar, walking on two legs. That's why your mantle feels so heavy, because it's not about you. It's about the lives attached to your assignment, the deliverance connected to your voice, the fire God wants to release through your obedience. And if that's overwhelming, it's supposed to be. You were never meant to carry it alone. That's why God keeps drawing you back into the secret place, not to punish you, but to refill you. The call is bigger than a platform. It's greater than popularity. It's deeper than influence. The call is eternal. It's about broken hearts being healed through your surrender. It's about captives being set free because you refuse to run. It's about heaven being manifested on earth through your yes. And that is not a small thing. There are people watching your life silently, watching how you respond under pressure, watching how you keep showing up even with tears in your eyes. They don't need you to be perfect. They need you to be faithful. Because when you're faithful, heaven flows through you. And that is what changes lives. As we read in Matthew chapter 11, verse 29, "Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light." Jesus never said the mantle wouldn't feel heavy. He said it would be different, divinely distributed. When you carry it with him, it becomes transformative, not crushing. And that's what you're learning now, how to carry this weight in a way that doesn't destroy you, but develops you. This is your reminder. You're not crazy. You're called. You're not overreacting. You're overburdened with glory. There's a deep groaning in your spirit because God is birthing something new. You are the vessel. You are the womb through which heaven is pushing purpose into earth. And yes, birthing hurts, but it also heralds the arrival of something holy. And even now, while you sit in the tension of wait and wonder, God is sending help, aligning resources, stirring hearts to support the vision that's been planted in your spirit, because God never sends a mantle without provision. And that provision sometimes comes through people, those who see the oil and feel led to help carry it. So if you've been blessed, stirred, or confirmed by this message, keep it to yourself. Your share may unlock someone else's awakening. Your comment may resonate with a soul on the edge. Your support may help spread this fire farther than ever before. These words are not just a message, they are a movement. And every movement needs both warriors and builders. You get to be both. And yes, if you feel led to give, to sow, to help sustain this flowet is more than a transaction. It is a declaration, a way of saying, I believe in this mission, I believe in this fire, and I choose to help carry it. Your generosity fuels the flame. It helps these messages reach more of the chosen, because what's happening here is bigger than a screen. It's spiritual awakening in motion. This is your community. This is your well. And as we build together, you're not just receiving, you're becoming the voice for someone else, becoming the example that faithfulness still matters, becoming a signpost in a wandering world. Your obedience isn't just affecting you, it's triggering a chain reaction in heaven. So carry your mantle well. Wear it with honor, not pride, with humility, not hiding, because what God has placed on you, no one can take off you. What God has called forth, no devil can send back. You are carrying more than you know, but you are also supported by more than you see. Heaven has its eye on you. And that weight you feel, it's the proof. Chosen one. What you thought was punishment was preparation. That fire you walked through, the one that scorched your confidence, burned your plans, and left you wondering if you'd ever recover it, was not sent to destroy you. It was sent to mark you. You are not a survivor of circumstance. You are a product of holy fire. And everything you lost in the fire wasn't yours to keep. God was burning away what couldn't follow you into your next. Fire is heaven's signature on the lives of the chosen. It purifies, clarifies, and qualifies. You thought you were being crushed, but you were being crowned. You thought you were being emptied, but you were being made ready. And now, the pain has a purpose. The suffering has a scent. It smells like oil. Chosen one. You carry the fragrance of fire. That's why people notice you, but don't know why. That's why environments shift. When you enter, you smell like something that survived. You carry the evidence of having gone through what should have broken you. And even if you don't see it, Yethel does. That's why warfare rises when favor finds you. Because every new level demands a fresh fire. But the fire didn't fail. It formed you. And now, you are becoming dangerous in the spirit. No longer reactive, refined. No longer unsure, now unshakable. Because once you've walked through fire and lived, there's a confidence in you that the enemy cannot counterfeit. A divine confidence that says, I may not know the future, but I know the one who walked with me through the flames. Ale, as we read in 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 7, these trials will show that your faith is genuine. It is being tested as fire tests and purifies gold. You are gold. Chosen one, rare, refined, ready. There were nights when the fire felt like abandonment. Moments where the silence of God was louder than your prayers. But He wasn't ignoring you. He was standing in the fire with you. Silent not because He was absent, but because He was working. Your tears didn't scare Him. Your questions didn't disqualify you. He stayed with you in the heat because He knew you would come out glowing. You weren't being punished. You were being set apart. Not for pity, but for power. There's a weight of glory on your life now that wasn't there before the fire. You can't explain it, but you feel it. And so does the spirit realm. You don't need to announce who you are anymore. The oil speaks for itself. And this is why your fire wasn't wasted. God is now using it as a sign, a signal, a banner. When others see your life, they see hope. When they hear your voice, they hear proof that it's possible to be broken but not bitter, tested but not tarnished, refined but still radiant. Chosen one, your fire was holy, and now, so are you. Don't be afraid of future flames. Don't retreat when the heat rises again. Because now you know what's on the other side. Power, perspective, purpose. You're no longer afraid of losing things because you've learned the secret. Whatever survives the fire is what's meant to remain. You've entered a new level of spiritual maturity. The fire taught you how to recognize false light, how to sense counterfeit voices, how to rest even when the heat rises. You're no longer running from process, you're walking through it. Because the fire didn't just refine you, it revealed you. You're not who you used to be. You can feel it in your bones. The way you see has changed. The way you pray has deepened. The way you discern has sharpened. You don't need applause, you need alignment. You don't crave recognition, you crave righteousness. You're not after followers, you're after fruit. This is the evidence of one who's been marked by fire. You live lighter, but walk heavier. You speak slower, but carry more authority. You laugh louder, because you've wept deeper. And that depth is what the enemy can't touch. God didn't waste your pain. Chosen one. He weaponized it. Every scar is a sermon. Every tear, a testimony. Every burn a banner that reads, "This one belongs to God." Empty. So when they ask how you made it, tell them, "It was fire that formed me." Empty. And now more than ever you walk with power. Not the kind the world gives. The kind that hell can't counterfeit. The kind that doesn't shout, but shakes realms. The kind that carries resurrection in every word. This is the result of holy fire. You don't just carry it, you are it. Comment 444. If this fire speaks to your spirit, let heaven and hell know you're not burned, you're branded. Chosen one. The veil is lifting. What was once unclear is coming into focus. What seemed vague is becoming vivid. God is revealing your assignment, not as an idea, but as a divine instruction. You've waited, prayed, wrestled, and questioned. Now, the whisper is turning into a word. You're not just sensing direction, you are receiving marching orders. This is the moment where destiny turns the page. You've been prepared in shadows, tested in silence, and now the scroll unrolls before you. Not everything will be explained, but what needs to be obeyed will be unmistakably clear. This is not the season of convenience. This is the season of clarity. The assignment was never small. That's why the process was never easy. You weren't being prepared for comfort. You were being prepared for collision, a direct impact with darkness. And now, the mantle rests on your shoulders. The weight you feel isn't confusion, it's confirmation. Heaven is pressing responsibility onto your life because it knows what you carry. Chosen one. Your assignment is bigger than your comfort zone. It will stretch you. It will cost you, but it will also complete you. There are parts of you that won't fully awaken until you step into divine instruction. There are dormant gifts in your spirit, hidden like seeds waiting for the right soil. And now, God is calling you into the soil of obedience. You don't need the whole blueprint, just the first step. And that step will trigger supernatural alignment. Doors will open without keys. Conversations will begin without introductions. Provision will appear where there was only lack. Because God funds what He initiates. He supports what He assigns. And when you move in obedience, you're not moving alone. It was declared in Proverbs chapter 3, verse 6. In all your ways, submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight. There's a path being revealed under your feet, even now. Not because it just appeared, but because now your eyes can see it. The distractions have faded. The noise has been silenced. And what's left is divine direction. What you feared was delay was actually heaven, preparing your ears to hear the instruction clearly. You are not being sent randomly. You are being deployed strategically. There's territory your voice is assigned to. There are hearts your life will soften. There are battles your prayers will end. And none of it will happen by accident. God doesn't or random. He does revelation. And you are walking in the revelation of your role in this divine hour. Chosen one. Your assignment is not like theirs. That's why your path looks different. Don't measure your calling by comparison. Don't dilute your fire to match someone else's flicker. What God has called you to will require every ounce of your authenticity. No filter, no imitation, just fire and truth. There's a reason God waited to reveal the fullness of your assignment. It wasn't because He forgot you. It was because He was forming you. The mission is weighty. The anointing is costly. But now, you're ready. Not because you feel ready, but because God says you are. And His voice is the only confirmation you need. When God reveals an assignment, it's not a suggestion, it's a summons. And heaven doesn't summon lightly. It calls those who have been tested, emptied, and proven. You didn't just pass the test, you became the evidence. And now, your life is being commissioned as a weapon of divine disruption. Your assignment may not make sense to others. It may lead you away from comfort and into unfamiliar territory. But obedience doesn't require understanding, it requires trust. And the one who called you can be trusted beyond the borders of logic. When He says go, He means now. When He speaks, mountains move. When He instructs, power follows. There will be moments when you feel overwhelmed. Don't retreat. That's not fear, it's the weight of glory settling on your life. It's the sensation of heaven touching earth through your yes. Breathe. Submit. Move. This is what you were born for. You're not entering this blindly. You're entering this branded. You've walked through fire. You've survived the silence. You've resisted distraction. Now you walk with clarity, with oil, with authority. The veil is gone. The way is open, and your feet are about to step into places your prayers prepared. This isn't about elevation, it's about execution. God isn't showing you your assignment so you can admire it. He's revealing it so you can carry it out. Not later, not when it's convenient, but now. The world doesn't need more dreamers. It needs doers. The time of watching and waiting has ended. The season of rising and running has begun. Chosen one. This is your instruction. Step forward. Carry the weight. Fulfill the scroll. You are not stepping into uncertainty. You are stepping into alignment. Everything is about to shift, not because the world changes, but because you finally move in what heaven showed you. Chosen one. You are not alone in this, though you've carried the burden in silence. Heaven has never left you unguarded. While the weight pressed on your shoulders, angels stood by your side. They watched as you obeyed when it was inconvenient, prayed when no one was listening, and stood firm when everything inside you wanted to fall. You've never walked alone, no, even once. There are angelic hosts assigned to your life, not symbols, not metaphors, real beings from the throne of God, dispatched for divine moments like this. They are heaven's reinforcement, heaven's watchers, heaven's warriors, and now they are standing at attention, waiting for your next move. Because when a chosen one walks in obedience, heaven's armies move in power. These angels weren't sent just to comfort you. They were sent to carry out assignments, to war on your behalf, to block attacks before you ever saw them. You don't even know how many traps you walked past unknowingly because angels stepped in. How many accusations didn't land? How many setups didn't manifest? Not because you saw it, but because heaven prevented it. You've been protected, even when you didn't perceive it. Covered, even when you felt exposed. What felt like survival was actually preservation. And now, as your assignment unfolds. The angelic realm is shifting around you. Heaven's movements are aligning with your next step. They respond to obedience, not to comfort, not to desire, but to action birthed from divine instruction. It was declared in Psalm chapter 91, verse 11, "For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways." Chosen one, you have guardians, not because you're fragile, but because you're valuable. No army protects what isn't precious. No king deploys forces without reason. You carry something holy. And because of that, heaven has surrounded you. You've been a target, but also a treasure. And angels have stood guard through every tear, every battle, every decision to stay when you could have walked away. There are moments when the spirit realm gets quiet, not because nothing is happening, but because everything is aligning. Heaven's hosts do not move in chaos. They move in clarity. And now, as the fog of confusion lifts from your life, the angelic realm has begun to respond. They are not distant. They are near. Near to your steps. Near to your home. Near to your words. Every time you declared truth, they moved. Every time you refused to break under pressure, they tightened their defense. Every time you chose light in a world of darkness, they fortified your path. You were never fighting alone. That cold wind you felt on your neck in moments of deep prayer, that wasn't fear. That was presence. That was spiritual resistance, meeting divine assistance. That was the clash of realms over your life. And every time you stood, the angels stood taller. Chosen one, you've cried out asking for strength, but strength wasn't always granted the way you expected. Sometimes strength was disguised as silence because God wanted you to see that you weren't alone. He wanted you to discern the presence of angels, to know that your spirit wasn't imagining the weight, or the shift, or the movement around you. You were discerning activity from another world. There is a divine order to your life. You are not making random moves. You are walking in orchestrated timing. And when timing aligns, heaven activates. Angels go before you, beside you, and behind you. They are not limited to your sight. They move according to your faith. When you believe, they move. When you step forward, they prepare. When you speak what God has spoken, they enforce it. These are not sentimental beings. They are warriors. They fight. They war. They win. And they have never lost a battle that heaven ordained. You are walking under the cover of an undefeated army. That's why fear has no power here. That's why intimidation falls silent. That's why confusion breaks when you pray. Because you are not just anointed, you are accompanied. Even in your sleep, they remain, guarding the vision, defending the promise, pushing back what was sent to sabotage your next day. You don't just wake up, you are awakened, because heaven allowed it. Every breath is permission. Every step is sanctioned. Chosen one, don't let the silence deceive you. Activity is happening beyond your senses. What your eyes can't see, your spirit knows. You are being surrounded not just by pressure, but by power. And the more you align with the voice of God, the more that power increases. The realm of angels doesn't respond to fear. It responds to faith, to movement, to obedience. You don't have to know the full strategy, you just have to keep moving. The ones assigned to you are already in motion, ready to shield, ready to speak, ready to strike. if necessary. They have seen your future, and they guard it like it's holy, because it is. Chosen one, be alert, because not every battle looks like a battlefield. Some wars come dressed in opportunity. Some traps are disguised as timing. The enemy doesn't always roar sometimes, he whispers. Sometimes he offers you a version of the promise that doesn't come from God. And if you're not discerning, you'll step into a counterfeit door thinking it was divine. The most dangerous distractions don't look like chaos. They look like comfort. They don't feel wrong. They feel familiar. They don't oppose your calling. They delay it. And delay is sometimes more deadly than denial. Because delay lulls you into spiritual sleep, making you think you still have time. Chosen one, listen carefully. Satan knows he can't destroy what God has sealed, but if he can distract you, he can drain you. He'll send counterfeit connections, counterfeit opportunities, even counterfeit open doors that feed your ego but starve your spirit. Not everything that glitters is God, and not every voice that flatters is from the throne. You are walking through a season of strategic tension, a crossroads where the difference between divine and demonic may be one decision apart. That's why you must move carefully now, prayerfully, quietly, with your spirit open and your emotions surrendered, because the next step is not about what looks right. It's about what's righteous. Paul warns us in 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 14, and no wonder, for Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light. And the enemy isn't showing up with horns, she's showing up in your preferences, in your type, in your timing, in your temptations. And if you aren't deeply anchored in the secret place, you might embrace a distraction thinking it's destiny. Not every good thing is a God thing. Some things are sent to keep you almost obedient, almost aligned, almost anointed. And almost is a word that hell loves, because almost is another word for delay, and delay is another word for disobedience in slow motion. Some of the people sent into your life were assignments, but not from God. They were spiritual decoys, calibrated to appeal to your wounds, not your worth. Their presence was soothing, but their impact would have been suffocating. That relationship you thought was a blessing, it was a test. That opportunity that seemed too perfect, it was bait. And now, you're learning what every chosen one must learn. Discernment is survival. The deeper your calling, the more subtle the counterfeits, because the enemy knows you're not easily swayed by obvious sin. So he wraps the distraction in spiritual language. He wraps it in promises. He wraps it in people who know how to say the right things. But inside, something still feels off. That's your warning. Chosen one, trust your spirit. That tightening in your chest, that nagging check in your gut, that unrest that won't go away. Don't ignore it. It's not paranoia, it's protection. God will trouble your peace to protect your path. He will disrupt your feelings to preserve your future. If it costs your clarity, it's too expensive. This is not the time to entertain everything. This is not the time to reply to every message, chase every idea, or revisit old relationships that God closed for a reason. You are walking on holy ground now, and you cannot afford to drag distractions into your destiny. You're not being mean, you're being wise. You're not being distant, you're being guarded. There is a difference between isolation and insulation. One is fueled by fear, the other by discernment. You are not hiding, you are protecting the oil. And the oil is costly. The enemy is strategic, but so is God. For every trap hell sets, heaven provides a way of escape. For every counterfeit, there is a confirmation. If you stay close to the Spirit, you won't just avoid deception, you'll expose it. You will begin to see clearly who's for you, who's sent to distract you, and who must be loved from a distance. And don't be surprised when old patterns resurface, when old wounds are poked, when old temptations try to look new. That's a sign that breakthrough is close. Because the enemy always tries one last distraction before you step into new dimensions. His goal isn't to destroy you, it's to detour you. But you've come too far to turn now. You've healed too much to reopen that door. You've learned too deeply to play with shadows. This time, you will choose right. You will pass the test. You will protect the promise. There's too much on your life to entertain what's beneath your calling. Too much fire in your belly to be distracted by what looks good, but leads nowhere. The mission is too urgent. The time is too short. You cannot afford another spiritual delay. This is your moment of clarity, of holy separation, of divine discipline. Because who and what you allow close right now will either propel you or paralyze you. Comment, no more distractions, and let that be a prophetic decree over your life. A spiritual wall against every delay, and a banner of alignment over every step forward. Chosen one. There is no more time to waste. You've been feeling it deep in your spirit. A shift, a stirring, a pressing in your chest that won't let you rest in procrastination. That's not pressure from the world. That's urgency from heaven. God is not asking anymore. He is requiring. And what used to be optional is now vital. The call has matured. The hour has arrived. No more delays. Delay is dangerous. Delay is disobedience dressed in passivity. The enemy doesn't need you to rebel, just needs you to hesitate. Because hesitation is the birthplace of forfeited purpose. What you delay in obedience today could cost you a generation tomorrow. God is moving, and He's not waiting for your comfort. He's not adjusting His timeline to match your fear. You've already been prepared, already been refined. The instructions have been given. The path has been lit, and now you must move. When heaven says now, hell scrambles. Because the enemy thrives in your delay. He builds distractions in your hesitation. But the moment you truly act in obedience, the grip breaks, the chains fall, the atmosphere bends. This is the hour where decisions determine direction, where what you say yes to will either align you or detour you. No more cycles. No more circling the same spiritual mountain. No more, I'm not ready. You've been made ready through the breaking, through the silence, through the fire. In Hebrews chapter 10, verse 36, we are reminded, you need to persevere so that when you have done the will of God, you will receive what He has promised. There is a promise waiting on the other side of your obedience. But that promise is not accessed by comfort. It is accessed by sacrifice. You've prayed. You've fasted. You've cried. Now, God says move. Do. Obey. You are not being rushed. You are being released. Released from the opinions that kept you silent. Released from the fear that told you to wait. Released from the excuses that sounded noble but were rooted in doubt. You are standing in a divine moment. A gate of destiny has opened and you must walk through it. This is not about performance. It's about presence. God is not impressed by action. He is drawn to alignment. He is near to the ones who say yes before they even know the full plan. That kind of faith shakes kingdoms. Chosen one, you will not miss this moment. You will not fall back into slumber. You will not hand over your mantle to distraction or fear. What God is doing in you is irreversible, and the time to act is now. You may feel the resistance increase, but that's confirmation. Resistance rises when proximity increases. The closer you get to breakthrough, the more the opposition tightens. That is not a sign to stop. It's a sign to push. Heaven is behind your push. Angels are waiting on your yes. Destiny is echoing in the halls of your obedience. There is so much at stake. This isn't just about your college, it's about the people assigned to your voice, your hands, your obedience. If you delay, they delay. If you rise, they rise. There are miracles tied to your movement, deliverance tied to your discipline. God is waiting to release what he's been holding back, not because he's stingy, but because he waits for the alignment of your will with his word. So don't wait for a sign. This is your sign. Don't wait for perfect conditions. The conditions are never perfect. They are prophetic. They provoke the miraculous. Every step of obedience becomes a magnet for provision. Every yes triggers favor you didn't know was watching. And when you step, you don't step alone. You step with heaven's backing. You step with unseen armies. You step with power that is ancient, tested, and true. This is the moment where you must fully engage. Spirit, mind, voice, feet. It's not enough to feel the call. You must follow it. Not enough to dream, you must build. Not enough to agree in silence. Heaven requires movement. And as you move, understand this: movements need momentum, and momentum needs support. You are not just being called into obedience, you are being called into community, into connection, into something that stretches beyond screens and words. This message isn't just for you, it flows through you to others. That's why your voice matters. Your engagement matters. When you like and share what awakens your spirit, you don't just support a message, you help spread the movement. You turn passive receiving into active revival. Every share becomes a spark in another life. Every comment, a witness. Every act of support, yes. Even giving becomes fuel to carry this fire further. If you've been blessed, shaken, awakened, consider how you might help carry the message. Whether it's subscribing to stay aligned, sharing with someone whose scroll is opening, or sowing into this mission, it's all part of obedience. This isn't about building an audience, it's about building an altar. And every gift laid there burns as incense before God. He is watching how you respond to moments like this, not to shame but to steward, because those who respond quickly, those who obey deeply, those who give willingly, they become the ones God uses mightily. So let it be known, there will be no more delay in your spirit. You are moving now, and as you move, heaven moves with you. This is not motivation, it is a mandate. Step into it fully, boldly. Now, chosen one, the time for silence is over. You've held your tongue long enough. You've swallowed words that were meant to shatter chains. You've allowed intimidation to mute what was supposed to be prophetic fire. But not anymore. Because your voice is not just sound, it is a weapon. God did not give you a voice to simply communicate. He gave it to create, to call forth, to confront. Your words are not casual. They are containers of spiritual force. Every syllable you speak under the authority of heaven has the power to shift environments, to wake the sleeping, to expose lies, and to usher in truth. You've been underestimated, even by yourself. You've convinced yourself that silence was humility, that restraint was wisdom, and at times, that was true. But now, your silence has become disobedience, because heaven has given you something to say, and it must be spoken. This is the hour where your voice must rise, not in anger, but in authority, not in reaction, but in revelation. You were given discernment, not just to see, but to speak, to declare, to decree, to destroy darkness with words birthed in fire and seasoned in intimacy with God. Your voice carries more than you realize. That's why the enemy has tried so hard to shut it down. He's attacked your confidence, made you doubt your impact, surrounded you with people who didn't hear you or value your words. But that was never about rejection, it was warfare. Because the enemy fears what will happen when you finally speak. In Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 9, it is written, "Then the Lord reached out his hand and touched my mouth and said to me, I have put my words in your mouth." End quote. This isn't about eloquence. It's about authority. The words in your mouth are not ordinary. They've been touched by God. When you release them in obedience, they do more than inspire. They ignite. They uproot. They rebuild. They revive. You are not called to echo the culture. You are called to confront it. You are not here to blend in with noise. You are here to bring clarity. God has trusted you with insight others don't have, with truth others are too afraid to say. And now, He's asking you to open your mouth. No more shrinking. No more waiting to feel worthy. Worthiness was never the requirement, obedience is. Heaven anointed your voice because it was willing, not perfect, because it trembled, but still moved. And that trembling becomes thunder when it's touched by glory. This isn't just about preaching or teaching. It's about presence. It's about your voice carrying an atmosphere. Even in everyday conversations, your voice carries healing, conviction, joy, wisdom, peace. It's not just what you say, it's what rides on your words. The unseen force that follows your obedience. People will start to say, something shifted when you spoke. They won't be able to explain it, but they will feel it. Because your voice carries oil now. You don't speak from theory, you speak from fire. You don't share opinions, you release revelation. And that difference is what sets you apart. Your voice is a key, a divine instrument designed to unlock hearts, unlock rooms, unlock destiny. That's why you feel it burning sometimes. That urge to speak, even when you're scared. That nudge to say something that feels too bold. Trust it. That's the Spirit, prompting you to partner with heaven in real time. You've walked silently through battles that should have silenced you forever. But instead of killing your voice, they gave it weight, depth, authority. And now, when you speak, realms respond. Because you've been through too much to waste your words. You speak only what matters, only what shifts. And yes, there will be resistance. Some won't like what you say. Some will misunderstand it, reject it, mock it. But your job is not to be liked. It is to be light Speak it anyway. Declare it anyway. Let the chips fall where they may. Your job is obedience. Heaven will back your voice. Not with popularity, but with power. Not with fame, but with fire. You will not need to raise your volume, just your vibration, just your alignment, just your faith. Because when you speak from obedience, the spirit realm listens. Let this be your awakening. Your silence helped shape you, but your voice will build nations. Your quiet seasons taught you wisdom, but your spoken seasons will teach others to rise. You're not stepping forward to be heard. You're stepping forward because you've been sent. What's inside of you is too powerful to stay dormant. It's time. The fire in your bones is not just for burning, it's for building. So open your mouth, chosen one, and watch heaven flow. Chosen one. The resistance has been fierce because the breakthrough will be undeniable. There is a shift taking place even now, not just around you, but through you. Everything that has risen against you in this season has one goal: to shut down what God is raising up. But it won't work, because what's on your life is not man-made. It is heaven sent. It is blood-covered. It is fire-forged. You've battled fatigue. You've wrestled with doubt. You've questioned if any of this will be worth it. But something in you wouldn't quit. You couldn't explain it. You just kept going. That wasn't your willpower. That was divine endurance. That was God sustaining what He planted. And now, you are at the edge of release. A divine release. The kind that doesn't come with noise, but with weight. The kind of shift that isn't always visible first. It's spiritual. It happens when heaven says, "Now," and chosen one. "Now" is echoing in your atmosphere. Everything around you may look the same, but something within you is entirely different. You're not in the same place spiritually. You're not seeing things through the same lens. The delays no longer shake you. The silence doesn't rattle you. You've learned how to be still and yet stay on fire. It was written in Romans chapter 8, verse 18. "I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us." That glory is not just coming to you, it's being revealed through you. This is the unveiling, the revealing of who you really are. The manifestation of the true you, the one the enemy fought so hard to bury. The one who wouldn't die in the fire. The one who got back up every single time. Glory is not loud. Glory is weighty. It settles. It rests on people who have been emptied of everything but God. And that's why you've been through so much. Because He was making room, stripping idols, crushing false identities. And now that you are yielded, heaven can trust you with the kind of glory that reshapes atmospheres. You are no longer living for reaction. You are living from revelation. You don't just want the blessing, you want the presence. You don't just want open doors, you want divine assignment. And because of that purity, God is releasing something fresh over your life. This is not just restoration. This is graduation. You are being promoted in the Spirit, not because of performance, but because of surrender. You have been found faithful in fire. And now, God is putting something on you that will leave. No doubt you've been with Him. Chosen one. You are not here to chase influence. You're here to become the evidence that God still moves, that fire still purifies, that obedience still opens doors, that waiting still wins, and you will be the living proof. Comment 999 below as a prophetic number of fullness, completion, and divine release. If this word confirmed what you've been sensing but couldn't explain, chosen one. The battles you faced were never just about you. You felt the attacks rise at strange times, right when peace started to settle, right when clarity was returning, right when you were about to make that bold move forward. Something hit. Confusion, conflict, unexpected chaos. You asked, why now? But the real question was, what was about to be released? Every attack was a reaction, a retaliation from the realm of darkness to a movement in the spirit. Hell doesn't hit randomly. It strikes when heaven is close. The warfare wasn't a sign you were off track. It was confirmation that you were precisely where you were supposed to be. You are not just a believer. You are a threat. And the threats don't live ordinary lives. They walk through fire. They face battles others can't see. They endure resistance that doesn't match their environment. Because it's not about where you are, it's about what you carry. What you carry disturbs darkness. Your presence alone unsettles the spirits that have made themselves comfortable in families, systems, patterns, and bloodlines. You don't just show up, you confront. Without even trying, you provoke exposure. The spirits that have operated in silence feel the pressure of your existence. That's why some people turned against you without cause. Why doors that made sense suddenly slammed shut? Why environments shifted cold the moment you entered? It wasn't personal, it was spiritual. You carried light into their shadows. And darkness never welcomes exposure. In Isaiah chapter 54, verse 17, it is written, "No weapon forged against you will prevail, and you will refute every tongue that accuses you." And now, chosen one, you are stepping into a season where every enemy seen and unseen is about to be dealt with. You will not need to fight with flesh. You will not need to explain yourself. God is standing up for you. Heaven is testifying on your behalf. Every spirit that spoke against you, every demonic force that rose to suppress you, every cycle that tried to bind you, is all being exposed and dismantled. Not because you retaliated, but because you remained faithful. You chose righteousness when retaliation would have been easier. You kept your heart clean when bitterness tried to take root. And now, that purity is speaking louder than any accusation. God is clearing the path, not just physically, but spiritually. What was allowed to stand before is losing its legal right. The access points have been revoked. Your prayers, those whispered, aching, trembling cries in the middle of the night, they were not ignored. They were launching divine responses in realms beyond your sight. This is the moment of divine justice, of spiritual reversal, where what once opposed you will now serve as evidence of God's hand on your life. The very things the enemy used to mock you will become the stage for your vindication. But this is not about revenge. This is about righteousness, about God proving, not that you were perfect, but that you were His. And when God marks someone as His, nothing formed against them can remain standing. You are not just walking into victory, you are walking in authority. Chosen one. Your enemies are not just external. Some of the resistance came from within doubt, fear, insecurity, shame. And those too are bowing. Those too are breaking. God is not just clearing people, He's healing the parts of you that allowed the pain to stay too long. This is full circle redemption. A moment where your history doesn't just get erased, it gets repurposed. What once wounded you will now empower you. What once limited you will now be used as a key to unlock others. You're not rising in spite of the battle, you're rising because of it. Let this be your clarity. God does not waste warfare. Every tear became fuel. Every rejection became redirection. Every closed door was a form of protection. And now, you don't walk with questions, you walk with knowing. Knowing that if it hadn't happened, you wouldn't have been ready. That without the crushing, the oil wouldn't have flowed. That without the betrayal, the truth wouldn't have been revealed. You didn't lose. You learned. And what you carry now is unshakable. God is not finished exposing what needs to fall. And you don't need to rush it. Just keep moving. Keep obeying. Keep standing. Because as you rise, the shadows that followed you will fall away. Not because you shouted them down, but because light always wins. Chosen one, you are not the only one awakening. Across the earth, in silent corners and hidden places, others like you are rising. Their process may have looked different, but their purpose is aligned. They, too, have been through the fire. They, too, have walked in silence, questioned their path, and endured private battles with no applause. And now, like you, they are stepping forward marked, refined, unshakable. You are part of a divine remnant, a scattered army coming into formation. Heaven is gathering its glory carriers not for spectacle, but for impact. This is a spiritual convergence. The called are finding each other. The ones who didn't fit in are forming something far more powerful than community. They're forming a movement. For years, you felt alone, isolated, not just by people, but by process. You didn't understand why others couldn't relate, why their words rang hollow, why their advice didn't apply. It wasn't arrogance, it was distinction. Your walk was never going to follow the crowd. And now, you see why. You weren't just being prepared, you were being preserved for this exact hour. This generation needs more than inspiration, it needs carriers of glory. Those who live what they preach, who bleed what they pray, who carry the weight of heaven with reverence and authority. And you, chosen one, are one of them. You're not just carrying a message, you're becoming the message. As we read in Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 14, "For the earth will be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord as the waters cover the sea." And how will that glory be known? Through the ones who've walked through fire and remained faithful, through the ones who carry presence, not performance, power, not pride, oil, not image. You are one of those vessels. You'll begin to recognize them in the way they speak, in the weight of their eyes, in the silence of their presence. They don't need to explain themselves. You'll feel it. You'll sense the fire. These are the ones who have seen too much to be casual, who have lost too much to play games. They walk carefully. They speak rarely. But when they do, heaven moves. This is not just about revival. It's about reformation. God isn't simply stirring emotions. He's building foundations. And that takes glory carriers. People who know how to host presence, who won't trade purity for popularity, who will sit in the secret place long after the crowd has moved on. You have been prepared to carry this, to stand with others, shoulder to shoulder, in the Spirit. Your yes, when joined with theirs, becomes unstoppable. There is synergy in the Spirit, and God is connecting the fire in your bones to the fire in theirs, across nations, across timelines, across every barrier hell tried to use to divide. And no, this won't look like religion. It won't be about titles, buildings, or denominations. This will be raw, untamed, led by the Spirit, validated by fruit, not followers. You'll see them rising in media, in music, in boardrooms, in neighborhoods, in cities where no one expected it. The overlooked, the disqualified, the counted out. God's favorites are rarely the world's favorites. There's a rumble beneath the surface. You feel it because you're part of it. This isn't High Pete's holy. The time of silent suffering is shifting into visible glory, not for applause, but for assignment. Glory carriers aren't known for noise. They're known for weight, for presence, for walking into a room and shifting it without saying a word. You may still wrestle with doubt. You may still feel the echo of past failures, but you're not who you were. And those rising with you, they see it. They see you because they've walked the same valley. They've heard the same call. And they know this is the hour. The earth is groaning, not for celebrities, not for spectacles, but for the manifestation of the sons and daughters of God. And that includes you. You carry what cannot be imitated. You release what cannot be taught. You've been formed in a place no platform can reach. So walk with your head high, not in arrogance, but in awareness. Heaven has trusted you with its glory, and others like you are stepping out of the shadows. You are not alone anymore. Chosen one. You are a generational shifter. You were never just sent here to survive. You were sent here to shift mindsets, bloodlines, atmospheres, outcomes. You are the interruption to every generational pattern that didn't come from God. You are the chosen interruption, the one who said, "It ends with me." And you may not carry a title. You may not have been affirmed by man, but heaven has already stamped you with divine authority. You were born into patterns that needed to be broken, cycles of addiction, dysfunction, compromise, silence, failure. But look at you now. You're still here, still standing, still choosing obedience over oppression. And that's what makes you different. Not that you haven't been wounded, but that you didn't let the wound define you. You broke through what broke others. And now, the chains that enslaved generations before you are cracking under the pressure of your prayers. This is not just spiritual language. This is divine reality. You are carrying fire through your bloodline. The enemy didn't fight your childhood by accident. He recognized what was in you before you did. He saw the potential and tried to kill it in seed form. But even then, heaven covered you. Even then, angels surrounded your bed. You didn't just survive, you were shielded. Now the fire is in your bones, and it's purifying everything connected to you. Your obedience is changing the future of your children, your siblings, your lineage. Things that were normal in your family are now being confronted. Silence is turning into sound. Weakness is turning into wisdom. Generational trauma is meeting a glory carrier who knows how to fast, how to intercede, how to break things in prayer. You were raised in environments that lacked spiritual clarity so that you could become the clarity. You didn't see it modeled, so you had to learn from heaven directly. And now, you're not just a learner, you're a leader. You're walking others through territory you never had a map for yourself. Psalm chapter 102, verse 18 speaks prophetically of you. Let this be written for a future generation, that a people not yet created may praise the Lord. End 1. That's it. You are laying foundation for those who haven't even been born yet. Your pain is not in vain. Your purity is not pointless. Every no you say now becomes a yes someone else will be able to say freely later. That is the power of legacy. You are the answer to the questions your ancestors asked but never had language for. You are the shift in your bloodline's spiritual trajectory. God is using your obedience to reroute generations. And no, it's not fair, but it is holy. Chosen one. You feel that weight because it's not just about you. Your yes in private ripples into public freedom for others. What you choose today determines what others can choose tomorrow. And even if they don't, thank you, even if they don't understand it, is written in the spiritual record. Heaven sees. Heaven knows. You will be misunderstood. You will be called too deep, too intense, too radical. But you were never sent to be normal. You were sent to be a breaker, a builder, a witness that God doesn't need perfect families to birth powerful destinies. He just needs one yielded vessel. And you are that vessel. Your prayers are building altars in the spirit. Your fasting is setting fire to old systems. Your tears are watering seeds that will become trees of righteousness. You are doing more than resisting darkness. You are reversing it. And for that, hell will try to discourage you. It will try to isolate you. But your consistency is killing every lie. You were born to carry what others refused. You were built to survive storms that buried others. And you're still here because your life is a divine contradiction, not supposed to make it, but making it anyway. Not supposed to be the one, but chosen anyway. And now, God is establishing you, rooting you deeply, making you unshakable, not just for yourself, but for the house, for the family, for the lineage. You may not see all the fruit yet, but the roots are already disrupting the soil. Things are shifting, even if they're silent. So, continue to build, to pray, to lead, to resist. You are raising a standard. Heaven is backing every quiet act of faithfulness, every whispered declaration, every sacrifice unseen by man. God is honoring it all. This movement doesn't end with you, but it begins with you. You're not just breaking chains, you're building bridges. And one day, generations will walk across what you bled to build. If this word echoes something inside your spirit, like and share it with someone who needs this reminder. Subscribe to stay connected as we move forward together, word by word, into greater revelation. If this ministry feeds your soul and you feel led to give, to help carry this fire, further, it's a sacred act of partnership, not obligation. And if this word confirmed what you've been sensing in your bones but couldn't explain aloud, comment, Bloodbreaker, 2 simple words that declare your role in history. Chosen one. Heaven keeps record. Every moment of obedience, every sacrifice no one saw, every tear you shed in silence, every time you chose righteousness over revenge, truth over popularity. The narrow way over the easy one, heaven recorded it. Nothing you've done in faith has gone unnoticed. There is a divine archive, a scroll that bears witness to your walk. And while others may forget, overlook, or dismiss what you've endured, The king does not. He sees, he knows, and more than that, he remembers. Not with human memory, but with holy intentionality. Every act of obedience is a line etched into eternity. This is what separates the called from the chosen. The chosen live not for man's recognition, but for heaven's remembrance. They know their reward isn't always immediate. Their honor isn't always public, but their faithfulness never fades from the sight of God. There have been moments you wondered if it mattered, if staying pure in a polluted world still had value, if speaking truth in a generation of compromise was worth the cost. And the answer is yes, because in the places where men forget, God builds memorials. Every time you said yes in private, heaven stood still. Every time you resisted temptation in the dark, your name was whispered in courts above, not as a number, not as a statistic, but as one who was faithful, one who was trusted. In Malachi chapter 3, verse 16, we are told, "Then those who feared the Lord talked with each other, and the Lord listened and heard." A scroll of remembrance was written in his presence concerning those who feared the Lord and honored his name. You're not just walking through life, you are writing on scrolls. Every decision echoes, every delay of sin, every pursuit of holiness is ink on heaven's pages. This is not legalism, it is legacy, a divine testimony that will speak when your words are gone, that will echo through generations as proof that obedience is never in vain. But understand this too, just as heaven records obedience, it also bears witness to rebellion, to delayed obedience masquerading as caution, to silences that should have been shouts, to talents buried in fear instead of sown in faith. These are not forgotten either, not to condemn, but to convict, to awaken the chosen before their time closes. There are those who once carried fire, now numb. Those who once trembled at his word, now entertained by shadows. But even then, the scroll does not lie. The invitation still stands. The hand of God remains extended, because mercy longs for restoration. But mercy is not forever. There is a point where heaven turns the page, when delay becomes defiance, when grace, though vast, cannot override willful rebellion. And you, chosen one, are being reminded now, because God still wants your full yes, not a hesitant one, not a half-hearted one, a full surrender. This is the season of record, not just action, but accountability. You will feel the weight of your decisions differently now. The Spirit will stir quicker. Conviction will hit harder, not as punishment, but as proof that you are walking closely. The closer you walk, the more precise the prompting, and you will begin to notice decisions you could once delay now cost more. Words you could once speak casually now carry deeper weight. Places you used to go without thought now feel off limits. That's not restriction, it's refinement. God is trusting you with more, and more requires more. There's no room for double-mindedness in this hour. The scroll is open. The pen is active. Every choice matters. You are either building history with heaven or wasting moments in hesitation. And you have come too far, survived too much, carried too long to treat this season lightly. The awe of God is returning to your spirit. Not fear of punishment, but reverence for purpose. The understanding that your life is not just your own, that your yes today becomes heaven's movement tomorrow, that angels move, that strategies release, that atmospheres shift, when the chosen obey. So, walk differently now. Speak differently. Pray with clarity. Repent quickly. Move with conviction. Because everything you do is being written. And when the scroll is read, may it testify of one who did not bow, did not break, and did not settle. Chosen one. This is it. The final scroll is being read. This is the last call before the gate closes. The final stirring before the silence. What you feel now is not just emotion, it's eternity brushing up against your moment. Heaven has brought you to the threshold, and you must decide, destiny or default. No more lukewarm prayers. No more halfway yeses. No more spiritual procrastination dressed as waiting on God. The truth is, heaven has already spoken. The scroll has been opened. The instruction has been given. And now, you are standing in the space between decision and departure. The weight on your shoulders is not condemnation, it is responsibility. You are carrying something heaven entrusted to few. That is why the resistance has been relentless. That is why the warfare has been strategic. Because what you carry is not common. Chosen one. You cannot go back to what was. You have seen too much, heard too deeply, felt the tremble of truth in your bones. What once satisfied you now feels hollow. What once entertained you now irritates your spirit. That is the evidence that the final scroll is being sealed. This isn't fear. This is fire. The kind that refines, not burns. The kind that calls you up, not tears you down. The kind that marks the end of one chapter and the irreversible beginning of another. You've cried enough. Now it's time to move. You've questioned enough. Now it's time to walk. In Revelation chapter 3, verse 8, the Lord says, "See, I have placed before you an open door that no one can shut." The door is open, but not forever. It is open for now. And what you choose on this side will echo through every realm. This is not hype. This is history. Heaven is watching. The scroll is still wet with ink, and your obedience determines what gets written next. This is your moment of complete surrender, of laying down every excuse, every delay, every fear, and saying, whatever it takes, I will follow. No plan B, no exit route, no return to comfort, just full alignment. There is no more room for delay. You have been prepared. You have been tested. You have walked through the hidden places, the burning places, the breaking places, and now you are being released, not just into activity, but into identity. This final scroll is not just about movement, it's about becoming the voice you once waited to hear, becoming the vessel you once prayed would arrive, becoming the evidence that obedience works, that God still speaks, that holiness still matters. There are no more signs coming, no more confirmations. Heaven has already whispered, shaken, confirmed, aligned, warned, and called, and now it stands in silence, watching to see what you will do with what has been given. This is where destiny demands action, where revelation requires response, where the scroll is no longer a mystery, but a mirror, and what it reflects will depend on your movement. So step with reverence, with resolve, with no turning back. Chosen one. If your spirit is trembling right now, it's because heaven has spoken directly to you. These weren't just words. This was a divine charge, a holy activation, a mirror held up to your calling. You felt it section by section, the tug, the ache, the fire, the weight. That's because this isn't just content, it's confirmation. You were called, you are chosen, and now you've been commissioned. But this isn't the end. This is the beginning of movement. This word was your scroll, your instruction, your moment of clarity. And from this point forward, the decision is yours. You can't unknow what's been revealed. You can't unsee what's been shown. If this word resonated, like and share it, so others like you can be awakened. You are not the only one. There is a remnant, and your voice may be the spark that activates theirs. Don't let this fire stop with you. Carry it forward. Comment below and let heaven know, I receive it. Declare it in writing. Let your agreement be seen in both realms. And if this ministry has become your well, your place of alignment, encouragement, and fire, consider subscribing to stay in the flow of what's next. There's more coming. More scrolls, more words, more fire. If you feel led to sow into this movement, your giving isn't just support, it's spiritual partnership. It's how we carry this message across platforms, borders, and boundaries. Every seed fuels the mission. Every offering helps light another flame. You've been faithful to listen. Now be bold in how you respond. This is the end of the script, but the beginning of your divine next.